This is the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show on 97.3 ESPN with your host, Nick Costco. We're taking you up to the kickoff of Rutgers football. Now, live inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, here's Nick Costco.
Live inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show right here on 97.3 ESPN. Nick Costco with you will bring you up to the kickoff of Rutgers football, taking on Indiana today at noon. We'll send it out for Chris Carlin and Ray Lucas out in Bloomington in about 40 or so minutes. Right now, we're going to dive into a lot of college football today, the big matchups of the day: Bama, Texas A&M, Penn State-Iowa, Florida-LSU, and then we'll welcome in Jason Kersey of The Athletic, who covers Oklahoma football. They are taking on Texas, a neutral site game this year at the big-time Jerry World down there, number 6 Oklahoma and number 11 Texas. So we'll get his thoughts on that game as well. And, of course, we'll go to our pick segment at the end of the show. And I was just talking with my producer, Josh, right before the show started. I was saying, I'm 10-10 on the year, 500, 1-3 last week. And I had my only win last week was picking Maryland minus 13.5 at Rutgers. They ended up, beating them by 41, which was, that anybody you could have bet your mortgage on that and be set up for life. But I was like, I did bad last week. And I was like, wait a minute. The Stanford game was last week, and Stanford, if I do remember correctly, was plus 15 at home against ranked Washington. I was like, I love that game, and I apparently forgot that game actually was in the favor of Stanford. Stanford won outright. So I'm thinking this whole week I was 1-3 because Iowa didn't cover at Michigan. They lost 10-3, and they were plus 4. And then now I forget the other game I had. I can go back and look at it, but I'm thinking to myself, I was 1-3 last week. Not a good week. We're 10-10 on the season now. And now I feel better about myself because I was 2-2 last week, so we're 11-9, baby. Oh, that's right. Army plus 2 at home to Tulane, and they lost by like 15 or something like that. So there you go. We actually are, the royal we, obviously, 2-2 last week, 11-9 on the season. You got to love it, folks, because I am just that smart. And I told you I was going to win you money this year, whether you pick the games I'm giving you or you go opposite of what I'm telling you to do this week. So I'll reveal my 4 picks. As always, we will pick the Rutgers games. We lead into them. They're at Indiana today. I can already tell you that spread is at minus 27.5. Indiana, the big home favorite over my beloved Scarlet Knights. We'll get into those picks later. Obviously, I mentioned before, we'll welcome in Jason Kersey of The Athletic to talk about Oklahoma and Texas today. Also, you could chime in 609-403-0973. Give me your college football thoughts. 609-403-0973 is the text board. You want to text in, chime in, any questions you might have, and cover them later as well. We'll also I have a bit of a ticket giveaway, and I will actually reveal that ticket giveaway right now, what it is, and it's actually 2 tickets, 2 free tickets, mind you. It is the Penn State-Rutgers game, courtesy of Billy Schweim in the locker room, of course, giving me a pair of these. Saturday, November 30th, senior day for Penn State, Rutgers at Penn State. 2 tickets. You could chime in, text one in, and I will select a random winner from the text board if you do want those tickets. Saturday, November 30th. Rutgers at Penn State, and I know it's Rutgers, folks, but it's at Penn State. Get senior day, soak it all in. If you want to make the drive out there, I have 2 tickets to give away. We'll do that until we have a winner over the next couple weeks. All right, let's dive in to some of these matchups here. We have Alabama at number 1 Alabama at number 24 Texas A&M. I like this game because I like Alabama. I was telling Billy, if you heard about my crossover with him just before that, I think Bama's going to roll over Texas A&M right now because Bama seems to be unbeatable right now. Tua Tagovailoa is playing unreal, out of his mind. We're talking Heisman candidacy once again for Tua. Texas A&M just inside the top 25. I get it, and it's at Texas A&M, but Texas A&M hasn't beaten Alabama since Johnny Manziel, and we all know how that turned out the next year. So, again, big division matchup for Alabama. They have this. They have 2 home games against Tennessee and Arkansas. So kind of, I would say, warm-up games after this one. And then they have LSU. That's the big one for that division for the most part. But the reason why I love Alabama, I just mentioned it, it's Tua. He's got over 1,700 yards passing this year, 23 touchdowns, no interceptions. 23 touchdowns, no interceptions. And guess what? 76% completion percentage. That is unheard of. And it's not like this guy is just checking it down. No, he's airing it out deep. That's why he has 1,700 yards through 5 weeks. That's why he's got 23 touchdowns through 5 weeks. That's why he has no interceptions through 5 weeks. Tua Tagovailoa is playing his you-know-what off right now, and I think they're going to roll into Texas A&M today. I don't know about that 17-point cover, but they're going to pretty much control this game all day long. I'd like Alabama today, so put your money on Alabama for sure. At least to win outright. Let's not dive into the spread there because I'm not too confident about that. And, of course, they're not one of my picks today. All right, other game I want to look at, it was, well, we'll dive into the other SEC matchup in just a second, but I wanted to look at this Big Ten matchup because it's very interesting because if you go back a couple weeks ago, even I would say actually back to week 1, I had the Athletics' Nicole Auerbach on. We did a little bit of a Big Ten preview in our kickoff special back in week 1. I told her, I said, I'm not a big fan of Penn State this year, and she kind of figured that I was pretty much the only one who was not a big fan of Penn State this year. They're ranked number 10, folks. They're 5-0. I don't know where this came from because Sean Clifford, their quarterback, is wearing Christian Hackenberg's number, and that's generally not a good sign if you're a Penn State fan. But yet he's filling in very nicely for Trace McSorley, who obviously has moved on to the NFL. Over 1,400 yards, 13 touchdowns, 2 picks. Where did Penn State get this guy from? I never heard of this guy, Sean Clifford, and he's playing very well. 5-0, 2-0 in the conference. They're rolling right now. But again, they're getting Iowa today. It's at Iowa, so you have to be careful if you're the Nittany Lions. But because Iowa is coming off their first loss of the season, they lost 10-3 at Michigan last week in a very winnable game, a game that I thought Iowa was going to cover, possibly even win outright, and basically put the end to the Jim Harbaugh era in Michigan. But Michigan's still alive now. For a Big Ten title. If they had lost that game, I would say there was no chance they were going to beat Ohio State and hope Ohio State wins or loses one more game to get to the Big Ten championship. So Penn State at Iowa. Iowa, obviously a very tough place to play. Kirk Ferentz has one of the most disciplined teams in the country. They're coming off a very disappointing loss, as I mentioned, so they're going to be fired up today. I do think Penn State has one of the best shots to win in Iowa this year. Can't rule out if Penn State loses this game, then I would say you're pretty much going to rule out them challenging for Big Ten titles. I don't think they're going to beat Ohio State. I don't think Michigan's going to beat Ohio State either. So, but Penn State, a surprising 5-0 right now, 2-0 in the Big Ten. They're rolling. They're the surprise team, at least for me in this conference. Outside shot at the playoff, maybe. I don't know. We'll dive more into that as the weeks move along if they keep winning. But that's an intriguing game to watch out for in the Big Ten. And obviously the big game tonight, number 7 Florida at number 5 LSU. This is the biggest SEC matchup of the year until we get Auburn, Alabama, as long as Auburn keeps winning. This is the game, folks, because Florida is coming off that huge win over Auburn at home last week, 24-13. I love Florida. It's no secret. I've actually been a fan of Florida for a handful of years. Or I would say a handful of years. I'm talking about over a decade. I have 2 Gators hats back in my house somewhere in the closet. I've always liked Florida. I've loved that program. The Gators. It's a great logo. It's a great nickname, and it's the Swamp. I mean, very unique type of home atmosphere when you call it the Swamp. You got to love it. They're on the road, though, and LSU is playing at such a high level where they have a shot at the playoff. And we're talking about, all right, can we get 2 SEC teams into the playoff again? And we've obviously run down scenarios in weeks past where you have, let's say, the SEC championship participants are both undefeated. The winner gets in, the loser might get in as well. But I'm going to throw this out here for you. Let's say, just bear with me, folks, Alabama is the SEC championship winner. They're undefeated. LSU, 1 loss just to Alabama. Georgia has 1 loss going into the title game. They lose to Bama. Bama's undefeated, number 1 seed. LSU, 1 loss, no conference title, didn't get to the championship game, but same division as Bama, only loss to Alabama, and they beat a top 10 Florida team. Yeah, but LSU, the Tigers, knocking on the door for the playoff. It's a scenario. I'm just saying. And on the flip side of this could be an SEC championship preview. Because LSU could very well beat Alabama and shock me. Florida could very well beat Georgia. And we get Florida-LSU in the SEC title game down in Georgia. I could see it down in Atlanta. I could see that. Gators have Georgia at home later this year. This is a cross-division matchup. As long as the Gators beat Georgia, Florida's basically locking up that division title and going to the title game. For LSU, and let's see if Florida can stop him today, Joe Burrow. I talked a lot about the quarterbacks today. Joe Burrow, he's playing a Heisman level. How about this? The Ohio State transfer really coming into his own this year under Ed Orgeron. Over 1,800 yards, 23 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That is it. And LSU's got a major schedule coming up after today. They're at Mississippi State, then they host Auburn, then they're at Alabama. So if LSU, you're making this playoff run, you win today. Even if you lose to Bama, you still have an outside shot. That's your only loss. If you could beat up on these teams, Auburn, Mississippi State, and you beat a top 10 Florida team, boy, LSU is going to be yelling from the hills in order to say, get us in the playoff. We want another crack at Alabama. I could see that happening. All right, we are going to step aside and take a quick break. On the other side, Jason Kersey of The Athletic will join me. He covers Oklahoma football, and he'll talk some Red River rivalry here today as Oklahoma takes on Texas. Big game here in the Big 12. Oklahoma needs this to stay alive for an undefeated season to win the Big 12 title and get to the college football playoff. Texas an outside shot as well. This could very well be our Big 12 championship game preview as well, folks. So I would say tune in for this game at noon. It's going to be a doozy. And also, you can text in your college football thoughts at 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973 is the text board. Text in with your college football thoughts. I'm also doing a college football ticket giveaway. Rutgers at Penn State, November 30th. 2 free tickets for you folks out there. I will select a random winner from the text board. I would like to give these away in the next couple of weeks so you guys can plan for that drive out to Happy Valley. I think it's Happy Valley. There's too many Happy Valleys and Death Valleys out there. I think Penn State's Happy Valley. I'm a Rutgers guy. I hate Penn State as a fan. As a commentator right now, boy, they're looking good. All right, Jason Kersey from The Athletic coming up next. You're listening to the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show right here on 97.3 ESPN.
This is the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show with Nick Costco on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Welcome back inside to the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show right here on 97.3 ESPN. Nick Costco with you. We're going to preview now some Oklahoma-Texas Red River rivalry here this weekend in the week of college football. Pleased to be joined now by Jason Kersey of The Athletic. He covers Oklahoma football. Jason, thanks for joining me today.
Happy to. Thanks for having me.
No problem. All right, so let's just start right off the bat here. Obviously, you cover Oklahoma. You know about Lincoln Riley. He has this team in playoff contention again. The offense is just as good as it has been the past couple of years. What do you take away from this beginning part of the season through the first 5 or 6 weeks, considering Lincoln Riley now has another Heisman-worthy quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty unbelievable that Jalen Hurts has sort of just stepped right in, and they actually seem better in a lot of ways than they were last year, which is crazy to think that they could be better. The big thing is that they haven't really played anybody yet that is anywhere close to the level of Texas, and I think that's what we're going to find out in this game is how much better is Oklahoma against these great teams. I mean, can they maintain that level of greatness against a much better defense than they faced all year? Because you look down the schedule, I mean, Houston is an okay group of 5 team. South Dakota is a FCS team. UCLA is really bad. Texas Tech is and then Kansas is terrible. So that's been their schedule so far. So I think this is by far the toughest game they face. And I think for the offense, they're going to have to prove that they can still do that. And then on the defensive side, this is the game that Alex Grinch was hired for, the new defensive coordinator. Last year, this is the game that got Mike Stoops fired as defensive coordinator. And so we're really going to find out how much better the defense was.
Sticking with the offense here for a second, let's talk about Jalen Hurts a little bit. He's obviously a Heisman candidate now. He was at Alabama, transferred in people thought, all right, it'd be a nice little fit. Oklahoma will be a playoff contender again, but Lincoln Riley has pretty much transformed him because if it weren't for Tua Tagovailoa and maybe a couple others, I mean, this guy would be the easy shoo-in for the Heisman right now. And I'll tell you what, he might end up being a first-round draft pick when it's all said and done by next year. He is that good right now. What's your take on Jalen Hurts and what Lincoln Riley has done with him so far here in 2019?
Well, I mean, the big question this season was, can Jalen Hurts make all the throws? Can he, we knew that he was a good runner. We knew that he was an okay passer. And we knew that he was a winner. I mean, those are all great things. But, I mean, we didn't know if he could make the throws. And so far, he's making the throws. I mean, his arm looks really good. He's making some pretty good deep throws. He's accurate. And then he's also still the same Jalen Hurts when it comes to running the ball. So, I think that was always going to be the question is if Lincoln Riley in a very condensed period of time. I mean, Jalen Hurts is in many ways a mercenary here. He showed up in January and he's going to be gone in less than a year or around a year from when he got to Oklahoma. So could Lincoln Riley turn him into that elite of a passer in a short amount of time? And so far the evidence indicates that yes, he did, and yes, he can. Will he win the Heisman? Will he be a first-round pick? I don't know. I mean, I think that 3 Heismans in a row for any school is pretty difficult and would be pretty shocking if that was to happen. I certainly think Jalen Hurts is capable of playing in the NFL. He's going to be a first-round pick. I don't know about that. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it's been pretty remarkable.
Now, with Lincoln Riley, because you just mentioned if he has 3 straight Heisman winners, that's pretty much unheard of, particularly at the same position at the same school. So he's had Baker Mayfield, he's had Kyler Murray. Jalen Hurts this year could get that third one. For Lincoln Riley, there's been speculation that he would eventually make this jump to the NFL due to the progression of offense at the pro level, where they want more of these young gun college coaches, these young offensive gurus. Based on your observations of Lincoln Riley and his 3 years here at Oklahoma as the head coach, do you think that he actually could make the jump to the NFL after 2019, or at least have it eventually, or do you think he's pretty comfortable running this college program?
I mean, Lincoln will never publicly talk about this. I mean, I've never heard him talk about this, but my gut feeling is that eventually he will end up in the NFL. I think the intrigue there for him would be there. I don't know when that's going to happen. I don't think it'll happen after this year, because the thing about Lincoln Riley that I think people forget is that, you think about Chip Kelly when he made the jump to the NFL. A lot of it was because he hated recruiting. A lot of these guys that do that is because they hate recruiting. Lincoln Riley actually likes recruiting. He's really good at recruiting, and I think he likes working with younger guys. So I think that eventually the allure of the NFL will get him. I just don't know when that's going to happen, and I don't think that it's imminent. I don't think he's desperate to get to the NFL. I mean, I think that like last year when the Cleveland Browns job was open, a lot of people assumed that maybe that would be a good fit because of Baker Mayfield, but that didn't really make sense. I've already heard people talk and speculate about him with the Washington Redskins. I don't see that as an alluring job. I mean, maybe if the Dallas Cowboys job came open because he grew up in Texas, he's a Texas guy, then maybe that would be intriguing enough to get him to do that. But I just don't see him as being in any rush. Now, on the other hand, I don't view him as a guy who's going to be like Bob Stoops and spend almost 2 decades in the same job at Oklahoma. That just doesn't happen very often. I think that was a unique case with Bob Stoops, and so I wouldn't expect that to happen again with Lincoln. But will it happen eventually? I think probably it will, but I don't think he's in any rush.
Jason Kersey of The Athletic covers Oklahoma football, joining me here on the College Football Countdown and Kickoff Show. All right, Jason, let's actually take a look at the game here today. Oklahoma and Texas, number 6 versus at number 11, one of the best rivalries in college football. I'm looking at Texas this year. Again, Sam Ehlinger at quarterback. They're 4-1 right now. They're still within a reach of a possible playoff berth if they go on a run here. But they've had some close calls this year with Oklahoma State, even a down on their luck West Virginia team as well after that loss to LSU in that shootout. What's your take on Texas this year, considering they've had these close calls in I would say, pretty much a top-heavy Big 12 here in 2019?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that Texas is a good team. I think that they are very talented. I think they're by far the best team Oklahoma's faced this year. And the thing about Texas, a couple of things about Texas. I think that they are much more battle-tested than OU. They played a much more difficult schedule than OU has, starting obviously with that LSU game, but also Oklahoma State. That was a close game. Oklahoma hasn't had to prove what they can do in a close fourth quarter battle yet. They just haven't had to do that yet. And so I think it's an open question. And then the other thing is, if you look back at this series since 2013, and I agree with you, I think it's the best, one of, if not the best rivalries in college football, not just because of the intense on the field stuff, but because of the atmosphere, the state fair of Texas, the crowd split 50-50, all of those, the old Cotton Bowl, all of those things make it so much fun and such a fun game to attend every year. But if you look back since 2013, Texas has been, I would say, the aggressor in this game every year. Even in the years when OU has won, Texas has been a team that seems to mean more to them in a lot of these games. And so and last season in this game, Texas won. Again, it's a game expired. Now, they did play again in the Big 12 championship, and Oklahoma won that one. But this game in the Cotton Bowl should mean a lot, and I think it does mean a lot, and Oklahoma needs to win it. Texas, now, on the other hand, it's probably more important for Texas to win it because Oklahoma has shown twice now that they can lose this game and still get to the college football playoff. Texas already has a loss this year. They have to win this to stay in that conversation.
And you kind of alluded to my next point there. I was going to ask you about if Texas does win this game, do we end up seeing a Big 12 title game rematch between these two teams? Because, again, I mentioned before how the Big 12 seems very top-heavy here this year with Oklahoma and Texas. Obviously, if Oklahoma is undefeated, they should get in. But as far as the Big 12 title game is concerned, obviously playoff aspirations will be on the line in this one and for that game later in the year. Does Texas have to win this one and then beat them a second time in the Big 12 title game to get into the playoff?
I think so, because they've already got a loss. I mean, I think for Texas, this game is must win. I mean, if they want to stay alive in the national championship conversation, I mean, they've already got a loss at home. Yes, it was to a very good LSU team. They got a loss at home, and you just don't get in with two losses. I mean, it doesn't happen, and it would take something pretty remarkable. A lot of dominoes would have to fall for them to get in with two losses. So, yes, Texas has to win this, and then they would probably have to win the Big 12 championship, and in all likelihood, it would also be against Oklahoma.
Now, for Oklahoma, I mentioned before that if they're undefeated, they should get into the top four, considering they would beat Texas likely twice. And obviously, you have a Heisman candidate in Jalen Hurts. Lincoln Riley has his team undefeated again. But I'm looking at Oklahoma. Is there another way in for Oklahoma? Say they win this football game, then they have a two-loss Texas team in the Big 12 championship. A two-loss Texas champion might not get into the playoff, but a one-loss Oklahoma still might get. Can you envision a scenario where Oklahoma's only loss is to Texas in the Big 12 title game, as in let's go back to the year where Penn State won the Big 10 championship, but Ohio State, who did not even get to the title game, only had the one loss, and they still got into the Final Four?
Anything is possible. I mean, these are humans making these decisions. And it sort of depends on what they think and what they feel and what else is going on. If Oklahoma goes 12-0 and then loses the Big 12 championship game, it is very difficult for me to imagine them getting in because they would have lost their last game. And there's some, I think in a lot of, I mean, again, these are humans making this decision. There's recency bias there. I mean, Oklahoma got into, let's go back to 2003. That's a season that I go back to a lot. Because it was such a weird year. But Oklahoma went 12-0 and then lost the Big 12 championship game to Kansas State and lost bad. They got blown out, but they still got in, even though they were third in the human polls, but they remained first in all the computer rankings, so they still got in to the BCS championship game. Well, now there's no more computer rankings. These are just humans making these decisions. Oklahoma would not have gotten in to that national championship game if it was just humans making the decision in 2003. So I think it would be the same way. The only way that I would see them getting in at 12-1 with a loss in the Big 12 championship game is if they lost on some controversial officiating call, or if Jalen Hurts was injured and couldn't play the second half or something. I mean, something like that would have to happen. And even then, I don't think it would happen.
Jason Kersey of The Athletic, who covers Oklahoma football, joining me here on the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show right here on 97.3 ESPN. One more for you, Jason. Obviously, who wins today? Oklahoma, Texas. Playoff lives are on the line, and we're only about halfway through the season. Who wins today and why?
I think Oklahoma will win. I think they're the better team, but it's hard to say. I mean, I think Jalen Hurts has been so exceptional, and I think the defense is just better enough than they were last year to be able to get Oklahoma out of there with a win. But this game is crazy. Anything can happen, and I would not be at all surprised if after this game we're talking about a Texas win.
Jason, great job, man. I really appreciate it. If people want to follow you on Twitter, what's your Twitter handle?
Just my name, Jason Kersey, Kersey.
Appreciate the time as always, Jason. Hopefully we talk to you again down the line. If Oklahoma's in the playoff, I will certainly seek you out again.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right, it was Jason Kersey of The Athletic. Covers Oklahoma football. Follow him on Twitter at Jason Kersey, Kersey. Take a quick break on the other side. Picks are coming up right here on the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show right here on 97.3 ESPN.
This is the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show with Nick Costco on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Back here on the College Football Countdown and Kickoff show right here on 97.3 ESPN. Nick Costco with you. Good stuff from Jason Kersey of The Athletic, who's covering Oklahoma football. Oklahoma, Texas today at noon coming up. Also, we're going to send you out to Rutgers, Indiana right here on 97.3 ESPN. We'll send you out for the call with Chris Carlin and Ray Lucas live from Bloomington. It's our pick segment now, as we will dive into the four games I have today. 11-9 on the season. Mistakenly thought I was 10-10, but we were actually 2-2 last week. So 11-9 on the season. We are in the green, folks. No yellow, no red, in the green. You are on the plus side of money this year. You have won money. You have additional money in your pocket. You're not losing money. I am here to help you folks. That is all. All right. Picks today. What do we have here? All right. We have Maryland at Purdue, Big Ten matchup. Maryland destroyed my beloved Scarlet Knights last week, 48-7. I had them minus 13.5 on the road, so that's a good job out of me, actually. But Purdue is plus 3.5 at home. For some reason, I think Maryland has been exposed as not as good as we thought they were the first 2 weeks, where they won 2 straight blowouts, and including an absolute domination picking apart of Syracuse. But you saw the other week the 59-0 dismantling to Penn State, and you thought, all right, this team maybe doesn't really have it. And to give Rutgers a little bit of credit, Maryland and Rutgers were tied 7-7 in the second quarter last week until one play touchdown and then a failed fourth down conversion for those Scarlet Knights, and the wheels came off. And then Maryland, of course, ran away against the bad football teams. But in any event, they're on the road today. Purdue, sneaky good coach in Jeff Brom. He always gets his quarterbacks up for these bigger games, and it's a cross division matchup here today. I like Purdue plus 3.5. So put your money on the Boilermakers. The big one tonight, number 7 Florida at number 5 LSU. I was really surprised at this line. Florida on the road plus 13. LSU's a 13-point favorite at home. Fascinating. I'm not sure if I like all those points for LSU. Do I think LSU could very easily win tonight? Of course, but the way Florida played last week at home against Auburn, in a game they had to win with Kyle Trask at quarterback, there's been no Felipe Franks the past couple weeks. I'm going to say my Gators now, as I am on the Gators bandwagon. I have been for over a decade. Don't worry, just very quietly. Gators today, number 7 Florida, take them plus 13 at number 5 LSU. Number 10 Penn State at number 17 Iowa. We talked about this game earlier. I'm going to hop on Penn State today because I know I mentioned a couple weeks ago at the start of the season that I was not a fan of Penn State this year, losing Trace McSorley at quarterback, and then obviously you see Sean Clifford filling in nicely. Iowa needs a bounce-back victory, but Penn State minus 3 on the road, that's practically a pick'em game. I'm going to go with Penn State, the Nittany Lions on the road, minus 3, and now we come to, of course, my beloved Rutgers Scarlet Knights. I have a shirt on the way too. I ordered to my house. I have a. They're going to wear they're going to wear these long sleeve uniforms next week at home against Minnesota in the homecoming game to honor the 150th anniversary of college football. And if you look back then, the R was a little weird, and they were long sleeve jerseys. Obviously with no helmets back then. Back in 1869, but they're wearing. It's gonna be interesting. They're wearing like these brown pants. I think like. So I don't know what they're gonna wear for helmet wise. I forget. They're either brown helmets or with an R. Maybe they have no R on them, but the jerseys are going to be very plain. I think they have to put numbers on the back, but it's going to be the weird R on the front, and that's it, I think. And the numbers only on the back. I could be wrong, but they're long sleeve jerseys. I'm really excited for this, and I ordered a shirt, one of those dry fit long sleeves with that wacky R on the front and the 150th anniversary logo on the chest. I'm excited for that. But in any event, see, that's the positives I can talk about this program right now. But they're at Indiana today, and they're plus 27.5 on the road. Oh my goodness. I'm taking Indiana. I'm taking Indiana minus 27. I have no faith. I have no faith unless they show it to me first. I thought we would see it last week when I was out there when it was 7-7 and Nunzio Campanelli had sparked this team a little bit on offense, despite it was pretty much a run-first offense, but couldn't hold together. Defense couldn't stop me out there, actually. So and they're not going to stop Indiana on the road. They've gone back and forth with Indiana. Minus 27.5 today. They'll go over the 4 picks again. Maryland at Purdue, take Purdue plus 3.5. Florida at LSU, take Florida plus 13. Penn State at Iowa, take Penn State minus 3. And Rutgers at Indiana, take Indiana minus 27.5. Take those 4 games. Hopefully we're 4-0 and 15-9 by next week. Thanks to Jason Kersey of The Athletic for joining me today talking Oklahoma and Texas. Make sure to chime in on the text board in the coming weeks for those free Rutgers Penn State tickets at Penn State November 30th, 609-403-0973. Thanks to Josh for pushing all of the buttons today. We will see you next week live from SHI Stadium, Rutgers, Minnesota at 2:30 p.m. next Saturday as Rutgers and Indiana at noon today. Coming up, we'll send it out to Chris Cron and Ray Lucas. I am Nick Costco saying so long. You have been listening to the College Football Countdown, the Kickoff Show right here on 97.3 ESPN.